reveal the meaning of the enigma whose explanation closed the history of the human race. Dim fancies akin to these haunted our minds, and instilled feelings not unallied to pleasure, as we stood beside the silent tomb of nature reared by these lifeless mountains, above her living veins, choking her vital principle. "Thus we are left," said Adrian, "two melancholy blasted trees, where once a forest waved. We are left to mourn and pine and die. Yet even now we have our duties, which we must string ourselves to fulfill, the duty of bestowing pleasure where we can, and by force of love irradiating with rainbow hues the tempest of grief. Nor will I repine, if, in this extremity, we preserve what we now possess. Something tells me, Verney, that we need no longer dread our cruel enemy, and I cling with delight to the oracular voice. Though strange, it will be sweet to mark the growth of your little boy, and the development of Clara's young heart. In the midst of a desert world we are everything to them, and, if we live, it must be our task to make this new mode of life happy to them. At present this is easy, for their childish ideas do not wander into futurity, and the stinging craving for sympathy and all of love of which our nature is susceptible, is not yet awake within them. We cannot guess what will happen then, when nature asserts her indefeasible and sacred powers. But, long before that time, we may all be cold, as he who lies in yonder tomb of ice. We need only provide for the present, and endeavour to fill with pleasant images the inexperienced fancy of your lovely niece. The scenes which now surround us, vast and sublime as they are not such as can best contribute to this work. Nature is here like our fortunes, grand, but too destructive, bare and rude, to be able to afford delight to our young imagination. Let us descend to the sunny plains of Italy. Winter will soon be here, to clothe this wilderness in double desolation, but we will cross the bleak hilltops, and lead her to scenes of fertility and beauty, where her path will be adorned with flowers, and the cheery atmosphere inspire pleasure and hope. In pursuance of this plan we quitted Chamounix on the following day. We had no cause to hasten our steps. No event was transacted beyond our actual sphere to enchain our resolves, so we yielded to every idle whim, and deemed our time well spent when we could behold the passage of the hours without dismay. We loitered along the lovely vale of Servox, passed long hours on the bridge, which, crossing the ravine of Arve, commands a prospect of its pine-clothed depths, and the snowy mountains that wall it in. We rambled through romantic Switzerland, till, fear of coming winter leading us forward, the first days of October found us in the valley of La Maurienne, which leads to Signy. I cannot explain the reluctance we felt at leaving this land of mountains. Perhaps it was that we regarded the Alps as boundaries between our former and our future state of existence, and so clung fondly to what of old we had loved. Perhaps because we had now so few impulses urging to a choice between two modes of action, we were pleased to preserve the existence of one, and preferred the prospect of what we were to do, to the recollection of what had been done. We felt that this year danger was past, and we believed that, for some months, we were secured to each other. There was a thrilling, agonizing delight in the thought. It filled the eyes with misty tears, it tore the heart with tumultuous heavings. Frailer than the snowfall in the river were we, each and all, but we strove to give life and individuality to the meteoric course of our several existences, and to feel that no moment escaped us unenjoyed. Thus tottering on the dizzy brink, we were happy. Yes, as we sat beneath the toppling rocks, beside the waterfalls, near forests ancient as the hills, enfolding sunny spots of greenery, where the chamois grazed, and the timid squirrel laid up its hoard, descanting on the charms of nature, drinking in the while her unalienable beauties, we were in an empty world happy. Yet, O days of joy, days when eye spoke to eye, and voices sweeter than the music of the swinging branches of the pines, or rivulet's gentle murmur, answered mine. Yet, O days replete with beatitude, days of love's society, days unutterably dear to me forlorn, pass, O pass before me, making me in your memory forget what I am. Behold how my streaming eyes blot this senseless paper. Behold how my features are convulsed by agonizing throes. At your mere recollection, now that alone my tears flow, my lips quiver, my cries fill the air, unseen, unmarked, unheard. Yet, oh yet, days of delight, let me dwell on your long-drawn hours. As the cold increased upon us, we passed the Alps, and descended into Italy. As the uprising of morn, we sat at our repast, and cheated our regrets by gay sallies or learned disquisitions. The livelong day we sauntered on, still keeping in view the end of our journey, but careless of the hour of its completion. As the evening star shone out, and the orange sunset far in the west marked the position of the dear land we had for ever left, talk, thought enchaining, made the hours fly. Oh, that we had lived thus for ever and for ever! Of what consequence was it to our 4 hearts, that they alone were the fountains of life in the wide world? As far as mere individual sentiment was concerned, we had rather be left thus united together, than if, each alone in a populous desert of unknown men, we had wandered truly companionless to life's last term. In this manner we endeavoured to console each other. In this manner true philosophy taught us to reason. It was the delight of Adrian and myself to wait on Clara, naming her the little queen of the world, ourselves her humblest servitors. When we arrived at a town, our first care was to select for her its most choice abode, to make sure that no harrowing relic remained of its former inhabitants, to seek food for her, and minister to her wants with assiduous tenderness. Clara entered into her scheme with childish gaiety. Her chief business was to attend on Evelyn, but it was her sport to array herself in splendid robes, adorn herself with sunny gems, and ape a princely state. Her religion, deep and pure, did not teach her to refuse to blunt thus the keen sting of regret. Her youthful vivacity made her enter, heart and soul, into these strange masquerades. We had resolved to pass the ensuing winter at Milan, which, at its being a large and luxurious city, would afford us choice of homes. We had descended the Alps, and left far behind the vast forests and mighty crags. We entered smiling Italy. Mingling grass and corn grew in her plains, the unpruned vines threw their luxuriant branches around the elms. The grapes, overripe, had fallen on the ground, or hung purple or burnished green among the red and yellow leaves. The ears of standing corn, winnowed to emptiness by the spendthrift winds, the fallen foliage of the trees, the weed-grown brooks, the dusky olive now spotted with its blackened fruit, the chestnuts to which the squirrel only was harvest-man, all plenty, and yet, alas, all poverty, painted in wondrous hues and fantastic groupings this land of beauty. In the towns, in the voiceless towns, we visited the churches, adorned by pictures, masterpieces of art, or galleries of statues, while in this genial clime the animals, in new-found liberty, rambled through the gorgeous palaces, and hardly feared our forgotten aspect. The dove-coloured oxen turned their full eyes on us, and paced slowly by; a startling throng of silly sheep, with pattering feet, would start up in some chamber, formerly dedicated to the repose of beauty, and rush huddling past us down the marble staircase into the street, and again in at the first open door, taking unrebuked possession of hallowed sanctuary, or kingly council chamber. We no longer started at these occurrences, nor at worse exhibition of change, when the palace had become a mere tomb, pregnant with fetid stench, strewn with the dead, and we could perceive how pestilence and fear had played strange antics, chasing the luxurious dame to the dank fields and bare cottage, gathering among carpets of Indian woof and beds of silk the rough peasant or the deformed half-human shape of the wretched beggar. We arrived at Milan, and stationed ourselves at the Viceroy's palace. Here we made laws for ourselves, dividing our day, and fixing distinct occupations for each hour. In the morning we rode in the adjoining country, or wandered through the palaces, in search of pictures or antiquities. In the evenings we assembled to read or to converse. There were few books that we dared read, few that did not cruelly deface the painting we bestowed on our solitude, by recalling combinations and emotions never more to be experienced by us. Metaphysical disquisition, fiction which, wandering from all reality, lost itself in self-created errors. Poets of times so far gone by, that to read of them was as to read of Atlantis and Utopia, or such as referred to nature only, and the workings of one particular mind, but most of all talk, varied and ever new, beguiled our hours. While we paused thus in our onward career towards death, time held on its accustomed course. Still and for ever did the earth roll on, enthroned in her atmospheric car, speeded by the force of the invisible coursers of never-erring necessity. And now this dewdrop in the sky, this ball, ponderous with mountains, lucent with waves, passing from